Hello, San Diego Comic-Con at home people. My name is Aaron Vanek. I wish we could be there in person with you to talk about this amazing educational role-playing materials, but we can't. Hopefully we will next year. Thank you very much for viewing. What you're going to be seeing is two video presentations here. The first one will be from Joshua Archer, who's the president and co-founder of the Game Academy. And he will be talking about two things that the Game Academy is doing for educational role-playing. One is called the Scourge of Shiran, which is a Dungeons and Dragons supplement in the World of Alessia, using this for education. So how you can play Dungeons and Dragons in an educational context. Also, he's going to be talking about the Game Academy's own world, Canthia, which is a way to also use role-playing games to kind of challenge your assumptions about cultures and people and ideas, social emotional ideas and things like that. And he'll be going over how you can use role-playing games. And this is educators, parents, homeschoolers, teachers, anyone who wants to use this medium of role-playing games, which are super fun, any role-playing games, by the way, for educational benefits, math, science, history, social sciences, anything like that. Josh will be talking about those two things, Scourge of Shiran and Canthia. And then we're going to switch to UC Santa Cruz presentation of a very cool camp that I am co-designing with Jasmine Florentine. And it's going to be a camp for anyone, but we're targeting towards middle school age girls to use technology in clothing, like wearable clothing, as part of a science fiction-y kind of adventure. Sort of everything. It's fantasy, it's sci-fi, it's everything. And it'll be a camp that we're testing over the next couple of years. And the idea is that once we're done, that this camp will be available for anyone who wants to run it, to get a chance to learn about computing and programming and clothing, fashion, all this stuff. It's amazing. So they'll be talking about that, and I'll be there at the end. I'll do a little bit more information about the UCSC camp, but I'll let Joshua take it away and talk about Scourge of Shiran and Canthia. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Joshua Archer. I'm the co-founder and the executive director for the Game Academy, and today I am bringing to you a conversation about two very exciting projects that we're working on. One of them is the adventure that we are co-writing with Storm Buddy Studios for their world setting called the World of Alessia. The adventure is called Scourge of Charon. And the second project that we have is the game world, the Realm of Canthea, that we are writing for our own purposes in the Game Academy's adventures. So the first item, Scourge of Shiran, we are, as I said, partnering with a publishing company for the first time to produce a adventure that is going to be both high quality in its presentation and also has educational pedagogy baked into it as well. This adventure is one of the 4 adventures that we are writing for our 2021 summer camp season. It is, again, written for the World of Alessia setting by Storm Buddy Studios. It is co-created with a group of professionals from the tabletop RPG game industry. We have writers, artists, designers, and developers, all that have worked on game systems for Paizo, for WotC. So Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, Starfinder, these are the same folks that have brought these games to you, and they are working with us to produce this exciting adventure. The adventure itself is being written both for personal entertainment audiences as well as the professional education audience. And we're going to be writing a very special version for educators that will have educational breakouts, sidebars, and references to relevant information that occur throughout the adventure that educators can tie to lessons that they teach in the classroom. Funding for this project, we are hoping to get through Kickstarter to be able to produce it as a high-level adventure as far as art goes, production quality goes. But we're writing it nonetheless for our summer camp, and the adventure will be finished, hopefully, and ready for a relaunch of our Kickstarter at the end of the summer. So, just briefly, introduce you to the world of Alessia. It is a setting that is future science and magic. The world of Alessia revolves around a planet. It's a mega planet called Alessia. It's about the size of one of our gas giants, Saturn or Jupiter. And it is populated by a host of intelligent species of different backgrounds that cohabit the globe in an advanced utopian society where they are living together, multiple different species. Racial conflict is unknown. Peace and harmony are the universal goals. Our game is set in the continent of Charon. It's a continent about the size of Eurasia and a similar climate. It's rugged and wild land filled with forest, hills, and tundra. The northernmost reaches are a frozen and icy area known as the Vastness, where very little survives without great hardship or without special advantage. In our story, there are some recent unexplained events, some seismic activity that's happened in the Vastness where it shouldn't be happening, followed with the emergence of a brine geyser that has popped through the ice and has formed a strange oasis of fungal trees and impenetrable mist. The nearby city of Kolg is concerned with this strange emergence because it has not only, origins unknown, but it has also created some instability in the magical ley lines that run through the planet and are tapped into by different cities such as Kolg to fuel their devices and industry. Though through investigation of the site and the surrounding areas, the party starts to uncover the nature of the threat, and that they discover the issue is not just localized, but it has spread throughout nearby areas, including infecting megafauna that are these large sort of construct slash animals that have that are inhabited by different species as roving homes, and that has been one of the things that's been affected by the cause of this scourge. I'm leaving out details in case anybody wants to play this game, but nonetheless, it points towards a mycelial intelligence. The characters are going to be assigned rewards and or penalties by the group that has hired them and by their different associative factions, both as a whole and as individual members, depending on their performance and what they've accomplished and how they've accomplished it. So that adventure is both engaging, but it also has a number of educational elements that we've included along the way. We are including a number of different subject matters in the content, anything from biology, physics, to social sciences, also history and politics. We're engaging the players on multiple different layers, and the decisions that they make lead to different consequences that will have different impacts on the societies that they live in. Throughout the content of the book, we will have call outs and references to different learning material, whether it be linguistics, where we've made analogs to different cultures, or where we reference biology and science. The educators that are making use of this adventure will be able to tie these connecting points to curriculum that they're teaching in their classrooms, whether they be a single subject or a multi-subject teacher. They'll be able to tie all of these into external coursework and reinforce what they might be teaching normally in their classroom. The contextualized multi-subject setting, where we're including, language and linguistics, biology, physics, social studies, ethics, politics. They're corresponding to real life situations or real life types of interactions, and we are going to be showing through our content how these things compare and contrast to what happens in the real world, and if they differ, how and why do they differ. We'll also be creating extended lesson workbooks, worksheets, lesson plans, and experiments that can be used by educators with their students to further their understanding of what they've experienced in the game. We truly believe that using this format of an educational adventure or edu-adventure is a new type of learning tool that distinguishes itself from a normal role-playing game adventure or module, in that it is really seeking to bring in subject matter and references very specifically. Normal adventures, when you play them, might touch on subjects, but only obliquely. We're really looking to provide educators a chance to create excitement around subject matter that they have to teach by allowing their students to tell a story involving those subject matters. And we think this is actually something that may be the first product of its kind, that at least that we've seen. The second thing that I'd like to talk about, the second project, is our internal project, the Realm of Canthea, which is a world building project that we are doing in-house with our educator game masters. The content is all created by our staff, the educator game masters that are trained at the Game Academy. This is a fantasy world that's built by the Game Academy for use in multiple game systems, D&D 5th edition, Pathfinder, etc. The world is designed to challenge tropes and expectations that have been set up by historic representations of fantasy in books and media. The world is populated with differing peoples that may seem at first to resemble traditional tropes, but we have reconceived their backgrounds in many of the traditional races and have rejected actually the term race in favor of ancestry, culture, and peoples. The world and adventures are all designed with specific pedagogical purposes. The actions of the characters throughout their play have lasting effect on the game world, and their actions are shared across game masters and different story instances. The world is being written in multiple epochs or ages, which allow the players' actions to change the world's history and future depending on what epoch they're playing in. The different epochs are designed to create the idea that actions that are made in one particular era will evolve into realities in different eras. And this allows us to create an immersive, evolving world where our participants are actively helping to co-create an ongoing history and trajectories into the future. So quickly, the anatomy of an edu-adventure. What's in an edu-adventure? What makes it different from normal adventure game modules? Well, each adventure that we have is written with a purpose. There is something that is going to be taught either ethically or in subject matter or both in each of our adventures. They'll have well-defined learning objectives that will be stated up front in the modules. The characters will be made with meaningful backgrounds and will often have features that are either related to issues that our audience have, such as neurodiversities or physical challenges. And the plot lines in our games are meant to be both challenging in their puzzles or the problems that you might have to solve, but also in different ethical choices that you might have to make along the way. Each of the stories will have reflection and our internal pedagogy built into the story, which will leave time for the players to step in and out of a metacognitive role to think about what their characters are doing and how those characters might differ from themselves, and how those characters are affected by the world around them. So what makes the Realm of Canthea special for education? We are doing our best to create a world that challenges traditional roles and assumptions and provides a place for reconception and reconciliation. The typical fantasy settings that have dwarves and elves at war with one another, or goblins and kobolds being evil creatures, we turn those on their side, and we are redefining what it is to be good or evil, and what it is to be a person, and not to be defined by our social position or our genetics. There are difficult issues that we do include within the topics of our games purposefully. We have things such as racial bigotry, slavery, etc., not because they've always been there, but because they afford us specific learning possibilities. We are looking to create parallel stories that span the epochs, that show that the participants how their actions in one age can shape and direct realities in future generations. And we are focusing on multiple socially constructed realities and how you might parse the difference between them. Right and wrong are a matter of cultural perspective. There are examples that we have throughout our topic, our world, that show how what you think might be a reality really depends on where you come from and your own history. There are characters that we generate for our adventures that have backstories that reinforce naturalizing neurodiversity and physical differences, and we're looking to show through play that differences are our strengths. The future plans for the Realm of Canthea. Of course, this is a platform for all of the Game Academy's future programs, our year-round programming and our summer camps. We are looking to publish Edu Adventures for the general public to use in their own contexts. And we're looking to produce game supplements as well that we will be able to give to the world. So briefly, some of our pedagogy and methods that we include through our worlds. We use a constructivist model where learners are actively involved in the learning process. This is sort of the form of collaborative storytelling, but we are really listening to our players, and wherever they take an interest, our game masters are putting focus. So the adventure may be written partly, but it's also being written in collaboration with our players at each time they play. And the students are learning to collaborate through specialization and working as a team. The active role-playing games themselves are inquiry-based. The puzzles that are placed are there to stimulate conversation and give direction to the players, but they can take the story wherever they wish. And of course, through having a story that includes many different things at once, from social interactions to an exploration of science or history or geography, these things are portrayed in real world type of examples. So the learning that happens is tied to something that is contextual and easier to recall than something that might just be in a rote class. There's also reflection that's built into our approach, where we are constantly asking our kids to think about the characters they're playing, think about the perspectives that they have, and we're also exploring differences and what might be considered flaws, and reinterpreting them as strengths. We're always increasingly matching our adventures to grade level standards, Common Core, next generation science standards, etc., so that educators can make use of them more easily. Our adventures are really teaching not only broad concepts, but very specific ideas as well, such as personal money management and body positivity. And of course, role-playing games are based on growth mindset and how we can learn to cope with and learn from failure. Student-centered learning, both high-tech and low-tech approaches to problems, addressing multiple learning styles, assessment of student learning throughout experience. We do make use of multiple intelligence in our learning approaches. And many of those things can be researched by looking up Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences, and I can provide a link to the explanations of how these things are addressed. Thank you very much for your time. I'm really happy to share these two amazing projects with you.
Hi, everybody. We're really excited to be here today to tell you about this wonderful project we've been doing. First, we're going to introduce ourselves. My name is Katherine Isbister, and I'm a professor in the School of Engineering at UC Santa Cruz, where I direct the Social Emotional Technology Lab, and I'm what they call the principal investigator on the research part of this project.
I am Elena Márquez Segura. I am assistant professor at Universidad Carlos III de Madrid, and I am collaborating in this really cool project because I started working with Katherine during my postdoc at UCSC in the social wearables project, and this is part of it. And I'm glad that we are still collaborating and be part of this awesome group.
Hey everyone, I'm Ella Dagan. I'm a fourth year PhD candidate at the Social Emotional Technology Lab, working with this great group. And I'm also previously a fashion designer, and I've been focusing my research on wearable technology and particularly on social wearables.
Hi, I'm James Fay. I'm a third year PhD student, also working in the Social Emotional Technology Lab. I'm focusing on the hardware and kind of software learning aspect of the project. And my research has been into sort of maker kits and maker ecosystems and that sort of thing.
Great. So I want to point out this is just a subset of the team on this project, and we're collaborating closely in particular with a group called the Game Academy. We'll talk more about that later. But for now, let me just give you a general overview of what exactly the project is. So what we're designing is a social wearables-based LARP camp for middle school girls. So that's a lot of stuff to unpack. What the heck do I mean by that? Well, first, let's start with LARP. So some of you may know what LARP is, but some may not. LARP stands for live action role play. And this is a kind of interactive experience where people get together and they play out narrative-based, but highly interactive stories, narrative experiences together. And LARPers design those experiences for people to come together and have fun with one another. And in fact, the LARP community already uses technology in order to make their LARPs more fun. And we had read research about how girls get more interested in coding and computation when there's a social motivation behind, like the why of the coding. And we thought, hey, wouldn't it be great to design a summer camp that uses LARP? And as Ella mentioned before, and also Elena, we had already been working together on social wearable technology. And we thought, you know, it's just a natural fit to put LARP together with making and building these wearable technologies that then the campers can play with. So the whole idea is that we use this live action role play to be kind of a backstory and a reason to engage together. And in the process, we teach these middle school girls coding skills. And what they're doing is they're coding how these wearables will work. It's a week-long summer camp. And it's nestled in a research project where essentially we're asking questions about whether we're really engaging the campers in the experience and whether it's helping them learn, but also whether it's helping them to see themselves as future computer scientists and coders and even ubiquitous computing designers. So that word ubicomp, or ubiquitous computing, means computation that's embedded in everything in everyday life, and wearables being one example of that. So what's wonderful is we actually got money from the National Science Foundation to build this camp. So we got a 3-year funded project, and we were able to pull in all these really interesting collaborators to help us work on that. And in fact, we're still in the throes of designing this camp. So the camp is going to run this summer for the first time. So we're all still working on pulling this thing together. So today in this panel, we thought we would share some of what we're doing to create the camp, to give you a kind of peek into the design process. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Elena, who can tell you a little bit about exactly how we're working to design the camp experience.
Right. So this is going to be, and it's already been, a multidisciplinary and cross-disciplinary effort. As Katherine mentioned, we are working with a group of collaborators, and we are influenced by user-centered and also participatory design traditions. So we are co-designing the camp with multiple people with different expertise. So this means that as part of the project, we have a group of external advisors who are helping us think well about the different aspects of the camp. For example, we have our two LARP experts, Annika Bern and Sarah Lynn Bowman. They are helping us think about the LARP and LARPing aspects. And then we are directly co-designing the camp with Aaron Vanek and Jasmine Florentine from the Game Academy. And this is a non-profit that has been running role-play summer camps for young people. And most importantly, what we are doing is we are working with our Youth Advisory Committee, or JAC, and they are providing input for key aspects of the camp.
So tell us a little bit more about the YAC committee. How does that work?
Right. So essentially, it's a very relevant group to our target group for the camp. They are teenagers of the age of, or maybe a slightly older age than our target group, which is middle school girls, like you said before. And some of them are very much into STEM. Some others maybe not so much, but they are giving us feedback about these, like the different aspects of the camp. And they are helping us understand what is important for girls in this age group, and help us narrow down the key components that will drive the campers' learning experience. We usually tell them that their goal as the Youth Advisory Committee is to advocate for the campers, for the future campers, and help us design this great camp for them.
Which is wonderful. So tell people how exactly we're working with them on the committee.
Right. So we are having a series of workshops, and they are focused on these different aspects of the camp, such as the narrative, the challenges, the backstory, the activities the campers will be doing, like designing and tinkering with technology, for example.
So at this time of recording, we're still sort of coming out of the pandemic quarantine. So I think it'd be really interesting for the audience to learn about how exactly we're holding these workshops and what they look like.
Right. If we were under different circumstances, we would probably be doing embodied design activities. This is something that I do a lot, right? But with these circumstances, we are working online. So we are having workshops that are happening on Sunday, and this is over Zoom, so it's digitally. And in reality, actually, these sessions extend beyond that. Usually we have pre-workshop activities and post-workshop activities. Maybe we may send them a survey prior to the workshop, which might help us craft the activities for the workshop. Or we may send them a survey after the workshop so that we get more information about the activities that we've been working with them. Or we may send them like a package that they receive with, for example, crafting materials that we will be using during the workshop, and so they have those materials before we gather, or they help us collect materials for the workshop and the future camp. For example, during the last workshop, we asked them to collect some images that are relevant for to represent pro-social behavior that we will want them and the campers to be working with. And then during the workshop, we usually have embodied, like highly physical, practical, hands-on activities. For example, during the last workshop, we were working with different design resources that the girls in the camp will be working with. And this includes not only the technology that James will be talking about later, but also other crafting materials like fabric, tinfoil, papers, cardboard, a bunch of things. But Ella can talk more about this aspect of the JAC workshops.
Yeah, so we're really working with the YAC, with the Youth Advisory Committee to really plan a fun camp that will be really engaging for the campers. So we are trying to create an environment where the campers will be creating wearable technology, but the wearable technology is going to be only one element in a bigger piece, which is going to be the story of the LARP. And they're going to be learning how to create wearables and program wearables, and design wearables, but also as part of being characters in the camp. So we're testing this out actually with our Youth Advisory Committee to see if that works, if that helps the learning experience, if that takes away some of the edge of sometimes learning about new technologies. So that's what we're doing with the YAC. We're testing out those parts as well as parts of the story that we're developing with the Game Academy, as well as what materials to use. So they're going to be learning quite a lot during the camp. They're going to be learning about design, but also like crafting, and why to design. And part of the why to design is going to be built also into the story, because they're going to design wearables, but the question is always, why are we designing wearables? What's the point of it? So as I mentioned earlier, the focus of my work is social wearables. So we're really focusing on the social elements and how the interaction with the wearables can also bring the campers together and create a community. So they're designing for the characters, but they're essentially also designing for their own experience with other campers as well. So we're now working on designing the camp's activities, which are kind of what we call missions. They're going to have challenges in the camp itself. And these missions are going to be also around how they create these challenges and interact with each other as they're building things and as they're overcoming the challenges together. So part of this is exploring materials, is about interaction design, learning about how to use the body and putting wearables in different parts of the body and seeing what the body can do with the wearable technology. So it's going to be experimenting with body storming as well. So essentially they're going to be learning about why and how to design, and then designing with a social goal in mind. So yeah, so we're thinking that having a motivating background story as part of the LARP is going to be helpful in learning about technology. It might take away some of the pressure. And I think James can tell us a little bit more about why we chose what kind of hardware environment we're going to be working with, and what coding environment this camp is going to be about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when we were planning this out, we were trying to think about how we were going to teach computer science concepts and design concepts in a way that would both work well with creating wearables, that would be very beginner friendly, and that specifically it would allow us to get campers to the process of making and designing things as quickly as possible. That way they can have the tangible results of what they are learning. They have that nice feedback loop of fun and learning. So there's actually quite a lot of options right now when it comes to hardware for learning electronics. And we looked at a few different options before we sort of settled on the BBC microbit and MakeCode. The BBC microbit is a small computer designed for use in educational settings, but it can also be used to create some really cool and interesting things, in part because it has a lot of kind of functions that can be programmed and built in without having to go through a lot of complex fabrication or some more complicated coding, so they can get into crafting with the sensors, the programmable buttons. It has a speaker, and it works with this programming tool that I mentioned called MakeCode, which is this web-based coding platform made by Microsoft that's kind of similar to things like Scratch. So it's a block-based coding environment. There are just whole blocks of functions where it says drag this to do that, and it's a very visual, nice learning environment. And it works with things like the BBC microbit. It actually works with a few other platforms, but what really set this one apart was because it has Bluetooth and radio functionality. So early on in this process, we were trying to be sensitive about potential social distancing and distance concerns during coronavirus. And it was important that we had something that allowed campers to create devices that could interact with each other at a distance. So you can create these lovely LEDs that will signal to each other, but also you can send secret messages or just signal to each other and create some kind of interesting experiences. And we wanted that whole process to be straightforward and user-friendly as well. BBC microbit and MakeCode works nicely towards that.
And James, maybe you can tell a little bit more about how we are testing and working with the girls, with our JAC committee.
Absolutely, sure. We have actually run a few sessions using the microbit and MakeCode, not only to go over some of the potential classes that we have as part of the camp, but also we're testing the activities, and there have been crafting challenges, and it's been really great to see what types of projects and technology they were interested in, which has been inspirational for us for designing the camp, which is actually happening quite soon. It's first running in summer of 2021 in Berkeley. This fall in 2021, it's going to be run at the campus at University of California, Santa Cruz. And again, we will be running these camps into summer of 2022 and hopefully beyond.
Yeah, so that's a peek into our design process, everybody. It would have been really fun to be there in person, but we're glad we got a chance to pre-record this. And we're really hoping that we'll maybe even see one of you at a future camp. As James said, they're running this summer, but also next summer. And we have future iterations in the works. So thanks so much for joining us today, and hope you have a fabulous rest of Comic-Con.
Welcome back. Thank you very much, Joshua and Katherine and Ella and Elena and James, for talking about that stuff. So for the camp, I wanted to show you guys a little bit that my colleague, Jasmine Florentine, is doing, so you can kind of get an idea of the projects that we'll be working on. Jasmine's website here, jasmineflorentine.com. She's done some STEAM projects here, like the Ticklebot or the Octobot, where you use paper and a microbit, which I'll show you in just a second. It's one of these. You can put together, and you could do very simple little projects. And that's what the girls, campers will be doing at the camp, using wearable sort of material. To give you an example of that, here's a photo of, you can imagine, these are just LED lights in a on a scarf. So, and you will be able to touch you can adjust the color or the pacing or something like that of the lights to indicate different things in the LARP, so that you'll be wearing the scarf, and if you want to signal something or you want to do something, you just touch it and it'll change colors or flashing or things like that. And again, Jasmine will be designing this so that both of us, that you'll have fun projects that you can learn how to program it, how to sew it into to your clothing and things like that. We'll be using the microbit. It's a little microbit right there. So it's like an Arduino or Circuit Playground or something like that. So you'll be learning all that stuff in the camp, which is amazing. Totally happy to be working on that. The Game Academy and obviously UC Santa Cruz are in the San Francisco Bay Area. So our camps are originally going to be in the Bay Area for this year as well as next year. Just that's where we're located. But the idea is that the camp will be available to anyone, anywhere. So communities, churches, homeschools, schools of all kinds, parents, groups, anyone who wants to run this camp will be available in a box. The idea is that we'll have a camp in a box that you can get with all the pieces and the instructions and everything like that. And hopefully sometime this year or next, the Game Academy will have the opportunity to get the Scourge of Shiran and Canthia out available. So again, teachers, parents, educators anywhere around the world will be able to get these scenarios and supplements to use for education in their classroom, home, church, anything like that. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you made it through here, and we will hopefully be seeing you sometime next year in the flesh. If you have any questions, you can reach the general Game Academy at info@thegameacademy.org, Joshua at thegameacademy.org, or me, Aaron, at thegameacademy.org. We can answer any questions that you have, anything else that you need that we didn't cover that prompts you for more information about that. So thanks very much, everyone. Stay safe. Can't wait to see you again in person at the next Comic-Con.